So let me start a little bit on my side. I just noticed the last question of Mr. Royat about the paper money. Globally, China is the first country which introduced paper money. And I'd like to have a question to the audience. So go a little bit locally. Which country in Europe is first introduced paper money? Sweden. The right answer is Sweden. And actually right now we are working with the Swedish colleagues, and the trend from World Economic Forum said that Sweden would be the first country which leaves the paper money. So actually the country which first introduced it in Europe, and that would be the first country right now, according to trend by World Economic Forum, that would leave paper money to go total digital monies. That is an interesting part of why Europe is still in quite position in a leading position in this area. Coming back to myself, I was invited by Mr. Royat to talk about Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and blockchains. And it took me back to the time when I first introduced. Actually, I first heard about that when I attended the MIT FinTech course at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the first course in finance and technology in the world. And at that time, when I heard that, I had no idea. Basically, it's like a fantasy to me. But now, when I came back to Hungary, I see a lot of different things. That's why I'm here right now. I had a presentation, but in the presentation that I used to show to my student, there is a picture of Mona Lisa, but I don't have it here, but I see the picture here. Well, another question to you, to the audience, that's how much does it cost right now? The Mona Lisa original paintings in the Louvre. What is the cost of that? That's an estimations. It's around $600 million. It's around that. Many attempts has been tried to copy it. Many attempts have made, but no one can exactly copy that picture, that paintings, because that is in reality, in the real world, a real paintings. But I try to go to the internet, to the digital world. I go to Google and I just put it a search. I put it there, Mona Lisa, and then I have a picture there. What I try to do is I just put the Ctrl+C. I hope that all of you use computer, you know that combination. And I put the next one is Ctrl+V. What is the product of Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V with the picture on the internet? It's an exact copy of Mona Lisa. So it's basically the original painting costs you more than $500 million. And it's impossible to copy that pictures, that paintings. But in the digital world, it costs you nearly $0 to do that. So why? That is the value that we're trying to talk about, how much Bitcoin means, and what is the technology behind. On the one side, basically, artistically, more or less, it's the same visual value you have. But on the one side, we have more than $500 million. On the other side, it's $0 to copy. It's a huge difference between the two. And I'd like to quote the chief executive of Google, who has the following sentence about Bitcoin and the technology behind that: whatever in the digital world that provide you, that's something that is unduplicable, that's not copyable in the digital world, would have a huge value. And actually, the technology behind the Bitcoin has that quality. because it's very easy to copy normally. Control C and Control V, and you have the exact copy of the others. But if you have technologies that provide you, that's something that is undeletable, uncopyable in the digital world, that would have a huge value. And that would be my answer to many questions that how much that it costs the Bitcoin. Why it had such a huge hype. There is a hype about that, but there is some certainty behind. It's a technology behind the Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency, that I would like to emphasize. And just before this talk, I tried to go to Google to check again how it's the hype it is. I tried to put it there, the how-to questions. And then I got the answer from Google, is that this is the how-to question that the most searched question in 2017 is how to buy Bitcoin. So this is the third most search on the internet on Google. So basically, it's so everything about what we have right now. That is my first story about the cryptocurrency and in particular the Bitcoin. My second story about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in general, it's I have searched on I did a research on the total capital value of cryptocurrency right now, and the last statistic I have is the Bitcoin, the total capital in last year, it's about $66 billion. And the total capital of all the cryptocurrency existing right now is above $140 billion. And just bring it into some perspectives. The GDP of Hungary in 2016 is $164 billion. So what does it mean? It means that whatever we talk about the hypes and the bubbles of cryptocurrencies, the total values of cryptocurrency in the world existing right now is more than the GDP of these countries. And we cannot say that it's for just by chance. So that is some food for thoughts. I mean, probably I have to answer for that, but I just try to give you a perspective on the cryptocurrency. That's the thing that why we are working on it right now, to understand. If you don't understand it, there is some reason why it's even bigger than a country in terms of economic values, a GDP of the whole country for 1 year. So that is a statistic that probably, I hope that it speaks for itself. My third story is about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and now I'd like to go to a little bit about what is lying behind the bubbles, if you said. It's a blockchain technologies. Why is the first white paper, I hope that the white paper that try to explain the technology behind the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, it's published by a gentleman called Satoshi Nakamoto. But as probably only of you know, that is a name that is not really a real name. That is a name for, it's like, it looks like a name from a Japanese person, but actually that is, there's not much to do with the real person. And that is actually the interesting thing, that if you know the person, that would be not really nice to try. And the paper is published in 2008, the first published. Now we are in 2018, so it has been 10 years. 10 years, and actually I would like to say that in the opposite of the example I showed you before, actually we haven't seen a realistic application of blockchain technology in real life with a successful business yet. We had heard a lot about cryptocurrency, but a real application that used by, say, more than 50 million customers is not yet available right now in this world, not yet. And to bring this in another perspective, there are other solutions, digital solutions that has passed this threshold in less than 10 years? How many of you have heard about this? What are the applications I'd like to mention? The digital applications that has acquired more than 50 million customers in less than 5 years, not only 10 years, but less than 5 years. What are the applications you guess? Please? WhatsApp, it has more than 5 years. It's less than 10 years, but more than 5 years. The application, I guess most of you use. I hope so. I have 3 examples, but I'd like to hear at least one back. I'm sorry? Twitter, yes, Twitter is right. Less than 5 years. Facebook, second, and YouTube. Okay, so that is we talk about business success. Business success, it means that you have enough customer in a limited time. And we have much more hype in blockchain technologies than we have the hype actually in the success of Twitter, of Facebook. So actually, business-wise, blockchain technology is not yet as successful as those applications, but actually we haven't heard about that. We haven't heard about that kind of aspects. And I would take another example. There's one application on the internet, digital application on the internet, which has more than 50 million customers in less than 40 days. That is Angry Birds. That's a game application. It took 37 days for Angry Birds to acquire more than 50 million users worldwide. So that is the business aspect of blockchain technology, the hype. We heard about that. We have both sides. We have the side of the total amount of cryptocurrency in the world, which is bigger than one country GDP. But on the other side, it's still very slow to get to the real use in the real world. So that's a reminder for those who just totally on the hype of the world. And that's another reminder also for those who that see that the GDP is still smaller than cryptocurrency for one country. So I would say that there is a balanced view on both sides. I can see reasoning from both sides as well for that reasons. About the technology behind blockchain, actually many people just say it, and in many white papers published by the Big Four, published by World Economic Forums, published by MIT. Actually, I know first about blockchain from MIT, so actually we need to study that at that time. I would like to just emphasize that all the brilliant aspects of blockchain technology is actually known before. There are many aspects, but I'd like to mention the first aspect we call the append-only database. That is one of the important aspects. We call it because that is a special database that once you write something into the database, you cannot delete it. But that is already exists in other databases as well. I can mention the Google database, the Hadoop database, and there are a few databases that has a distributed aspect, and we call it an append-only database. It means that you can only append a new record in the database, but you cannot delete it. So that is one of the important aspects that normally we thought that is very blockchain specific. The second aspect of blockchain that we like very much is its cryptographic power of the technologies, because it's applied we call asymmetric cryptography. In the term asymmetric cryptography, we mean that it's a public key cryptography systems. Normally, I just say that, well, I said the Vietnamese want to open the door, right? You remember it at the beginning. Normally, when you go to your house or your rooms or your office, you use one key to open that. If you use one key to lock the door, and you use the same key to open it, we call it, this system is symmetric cryptography in a sense, because you use the same key to lock something and use the same key to open something. But in blockchain technologies, that's different. You use one key to lock the data, but you use another key to open it. And every partners, every node in the network possess the same things. You have to store one secret key for yourself to open, and you publish a key, we call a public key, for everyone to know it. Just bring it to a perspective, a normal people who use banking system, a public key is like your account, bank account. So if you want to receive funds, you just publish that there, right? That is a public key. But you have a key to log in a net banking systems, that is the private key of you. So basically, that's just try to bring it to the perspective. And that is already exists because we know the RSA mechanism. If some of you work on cryptography, the reverse Samir-Adamant algorithms that's first published in the last century in 79. So it's more than, I would say, more than 50 years ago already exists the mechanism. The cryptographic mechanism for blockchain technology is already half a century though, more or less. So this is not new, but the interesting thing is that the Satoshi Nakamoto gentleman, tried to embrace both the database systems and cryptography in one system. And that is something unique that actually we did not have it before. And with the system, we have the kind of thing that we call the digital signatures. That's what is quite interesting and unique in a kind of asymmetric cryptography, in the sense that if someone sends me some message and I can open it with my own private key, and that I have a proof that this message that I received from that particular person, so that is undeniable by the person who sent me. That is what we call digital signature, in the sense that when you code your message, and I can open by my private key that message and receive, say, the money, the message, whatever, the transaction can contain different things. But at the end, that's also a proof, not only the transaction, but there's also a proof that that is a message I can prove before all of you sitting here that I get that from a particular person, and that is very important. That is very important that you can show the okay, for a lot of reasons it's money laundering can be possible to be checked and to be proved. That is interesting in that. There are many applications of that, but I would say that that is a strength of cryptography and asymmetric crypto systems. There are the third property of the system is that it's somewhat, I would say somewhat, many people just omit the word, but I would put that as somewhat, it's a self-organized systems. It's in the sense that it's like a self-organizing society where all the populations are on, we would say, equal terms. All can contribute to the system, and all can have the benefit of the system, in the sense that I guess you heard about the Bitcoin mining. I just try to explain a little bit why Bitcoin mining has something to do with such a scientific field like game theory and reliability systems. Okay, the Bitcoin mining, I would say that the term is not exactly what is lying behind it, because when we sit mining, we try to duck in the field and you get something. But no, the Bitcoin mining it's a term try to show that if you contribute something to the system, for the sustainability of the system, for the building of the system, and that is a reward that you get back from the systems. Because when you try to, we would say like that. Well, I talk about the append-only database. It means that you need to append a new block into the chain of the blockchain system, right? A block contains the transactions that's the system that try to hold and record. But we talk about distributed system, and then there is no central authority to put a new record into the system, and someone has to do that. Is that correct? because you have not a centralized system. No one is, there is, in a centralized system, there is one entity who try to do everything for you. But in a distributed system, you have to decide who does that. A self-organized system. And then there is a protocol, actually the protocol we call the Bitcoin blockchain protocol, is try to choose a particular person or a particular group of people who has the right to put a new block into the blockchain. And that's there's a mechanism that chooses that, and then if you do the work to sustain the blockchain, to build a new block into the blockchain, and then you work for the system, and you have the reward. The reward actually is a token of the system that's sending to you, and in the Bitcoin, that is a Bitcoin that you get from the system. Does this make sense to you? Yeah, it's like you contribute to the building of a highway, and then you get back some reward from that. And what you get back from the system is a token that the system send it to you in Bitcoin terms. And that is the mining. Why is the mining? Because for that, you had to compute a couple of things to show that you are competent first. It's a cryptographic puzzle that you need to solve. And then if you are the first one to solve the problem, it means you are competent enough. You have enough power. You have enough the hardware. You have the computing power to do that. And second, you have to do it by yourself. I mean, that is you need first to show your competence, and then you have to do the work. And that is the thing that you try to contribute to the sustainability of the system. And then that comes to the terms that what you have to pay. What you have to pay is the energy. Because, okay, hardware can do the computation, but for the hardware to work, it needs energy to do that. And I guess people in this room, many of you have heard about the energy consumptions of Bitcoin technology. It's huge. Last year, it's the total energy consumption to mine the Bitcoin, to compute on to make all the computations feasible and to sustain the system is more than all the energy it's used by Denmark. Just to put another northern country into perspective. The total energy of Denmark is less than the total energy used by Bitcoin to mine Bitcoin last year. So basically you can see there is an environmental disaster with that. And actually now we are the researchers and we are working on one of the topics that try to bring in the mechanism to regulate these kind of things, because it's not sustainable in the long run. Last year it's Denmark. Next year it could be even Germany, and we just don't know 5 years later which country would be comparable to the Bitcoin. If you take China, many of the Bitcoin mining is in the Tibet area of China, because it's cold enough for the heating of the hardware system. So that's why we are working right now. And I just try to brief you that one research topic that we work in the Corvinus University, and we are collaborating with researcher from MIT, is we try to bring a new mechanism which try to tax. We'd like to bring in taxation for Bitcoin mining. This means that you have to take some responsibility towards the society when you try to take advantage of the cryptocurrency and mining things, because it's not sustainable that you just use the energies and you just put the kind of carbon dioxide, a lot of negative things into the society, and then not paying anything. So something needs to be controlled and to make it sustainable. And one of the mechanisms we are trying to work out from both business point of view, both economic point of view and technology is bringing in a feasible taxation system that to, on the one hand, it still give you the chance to innovate, but on the other hand, it's the responsibility to society as well. It's the idea we are working right now with a researcher from MIT and researcher from our own university. I'd like to mention. Last but not least, I would like to brief you a little bit about the research work at Corvinus University in Corvinus FinTech Center in particular, where I'm the head of the centers, and I'm responsible for teaching and researching on blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. Last year we had a kind of competition for our student from Corvinus University on a course of we call it finance and technologies. The finance and technology course is actually the course that I try to bring in the knowledge that I acquired at MIT back to Hungary and to teach it in Corvinus University. And it's the first course in Hungary and Eastern and Central Europe on finance and technology in higher educations. So I would like to mention that we are quite proud to make it happen here in Hungary first. And the projects that I try to have the students to work on is generally finance and technologies, but all the projects were in blockchains. And we have 104 projects on blockchain technologies, different kind of use case and applications. I would like to mention my students working on different aspects of blockchain to bring it into the real life. I mentioned it before that still we need that magical target of 50 million customers for one application to make it a real reality. And I would like to brief you that many areas that we are investigating right now, in particular in the application in healthcare, the application in cybersecurity. That on the one hand, you need to be secured to defend yourself, but on the other hand, because of the strong cryptographic aspect of blockchain technology, it can help to detect the attacks and to help to protect your system from cyber attacks. And the third area that we are working on is quite straightforward and could go directly into the real world is ticketing systems. Because basically the ticketing system, it means that you have a particular ID and a particular persons and a particular place that you need to combine the three. And blockchain is ideal for that because it knows how to record things and you cannot change it. So that is the direct application, and we are working right now to a very practical projects on apply it for airline ticketing systems. And we work with a company here in Hungary to make it a reality, and we hope that actually it's a project that we would like to compete in international stage. Last but not least, I would like to mention that we had a competition here in Hungary. It's a joint work with Mr. Thomas Cegleti from Blockchainium, Corvinus FinTech Center and Blockchainium working together to organize a first ever blockchain competition here in Hungary, and I would say it's Central and Eastern Europe as well. And we plan to go it internationally in the long run. And the semi-final of the competition is we plan it at the end of March and beginning of April. And the final competition that we would like to invite, hopefully all of you would come. Thomas knows much more about me about the details. It's in May, it's the mid of May in Aquarium here in Budapest. And it's open for all, not only Hungary, but all the countries in Central and Eastern Europe. For the beginning, we aim for that direction, but we keep a very strong mind that Budapest could be a center for blockchain research and development, not only in this country, not only in this region, but we hope it become an international center for the year to come. And thank you for your attention.